Hey, how's it going? Hey there, Pedersa? Peter, Pedersa? I'm not sure how to say it. How you doing? A hydrate, a stretch, and a posture check all in one in quick succession. Better take care of that action. Yeah, got the Pater Ursa? Yep, I got the old update on Kickstarter. Got the if you did the Kickstarter, you got access to your a copy of your book today, of the new book, Papa Bear. Ah, makes sense. Papa Bear. Uh, yeah, got the new books there. Happy Pole. Okay, so you confused the crap out of me. You can't switch that names. How you doing, brother? How you? It's been a while. Been a while. All right, let's see here. Oof, that's something. Yeah, books out there. Happy Pole makes some people upset. Well, I love your Happy Pole. I'll take that for what it's worth. But yeah, got the book is available there through the Kickstarter, through the oh, what the heck was it? It's the pledge box. Everyone loves the Happy Pull. That's right. But yeah, you should be able to get your e-copy through there now. Hey there, Tay Tay. Good evening. Hope you're doing well tonight. But yeah, I thought, rather than just diving into some more writing stuff tonight, which I'm not saying I won't do some at some point, but I thought it would be kind of fun since the book is officially out to the Kickstarter people. It's not officially available for purchase um, through like Amazon and all the other major booksellers until Saturday the 9th. That's when it will be available. Um, because that's when I'm doing a book launch party. It's something I haven't done for previous books, so I thought I'd give it a go. So yeah, thought it'd be fun to tonight to read from it a little bit. Uh, give that a go. Just a little celebration, a little something, and you know, so we'll see what y'all think here in a minute. The let's see, in Amazon currently you can pre-order all the books. Um, if you wait until like tomorrow, the prices are going to be a little different. I dropped them down some from where I had them up before, so a little more affordable. And if you've already pre-ordered it or if you do it today, you should get that reduction because Amazon will reduce prices, to match if there's a price change. So I'm excited. I got the e-copy of the new book all set up to go out and be like it'll be available in barnesandnoble.com and all that. Paperback and hardback, or at least paperback on all those other stores soon. I think Amazon's the only one I can do a hardback at this point. But yeah, it's exciting stuff. I'm stoked about it all. Tonight's tasty beverage is a weird one. It's by D9 Brewing Company here in North Carolina. It is the German chocolate cake. It is a coconut pecan stout, and it's tastier than it should be. But it's good. But you gotta have something to wet the palate while we're reading, right? But yeah, definitely excited. We're gonna do a little Stream Raiders too while we're, because every once in a while we will take a break to let my throat rest a little bit, and we'll do a few other things so it's not just continuous reading. Um, some of it's just gonna be playing with Canva and stuff like that for some promotional stuff, and uh, you know, obviously looking any input you want to give while reading or otherwise, I appreciate it. So let's see. I'm just gonna start off a little Stream Raiders, and then I think we'll dive into the reading here in a minute. Let's see. There we go. Had a little bit of a technical difficulty there. Didn't have my background music going, so turned off my headphones to save battery. But we'll have some little background music here in just a moment. Hello, Strange Valkyrie. Glad you could make it. I was hoping you would. Let's see here. One other thing while that's finishing up. Not there. All right. All right. Let's see. Turn that down a little bit. Hard to read when the music is blaring in my ear here. And let's. I didn't stream last night because I had some serious technical difficulties. So, doink. There you go. Good. So yeah, last night was kind of I ended up trying. I played a little online while I was doing some setup stuff, and I just wasn't feeling it. Went to bed early. All right, let's. All right, let's take a last little sip here. Let me pull up my book here. I'm not going to share it on screen just because that takes away some of the fun. But let's get. Get that. Okay, Stream Readers actually started, so yay there. And I'll share some links here in a bit for some. If you're not an Amazon person, you want to pick up the ebook somewhere else. Right now, Amazon's the only place to pick up the paperbacks and the hardback and everything like that. I have to finish setting it up to do paperbacks at the other locations and such. But let me find the stupid copy of the book so I can read it. Yeah. Um, that's right there. To make it easy. Like I said, like any comments you want to give, any thoughts, share. I mean, it's a little late to rewrite anything in the book itself, but hey, I'm still open to listen. I can actually, technically speaking, I can still change the book until. Let's move this over here so it's a little easier for now. Bam. I can still technically make changes up until like December 5th. Um, but I don't expect anything outside maybe some tiny stuff. If I happen to come across anything. But this is probably, of all my books I've done so far, I have done more um I have done more editing on this one than I've done on any other. This is by far my most thoroughly vetted and edited book. Um, both by myself and, actually ran it through an editor. Not that I want to give that editor any credit because honestly they sucked so much. Um, so yeah. All right. See here, I think we're good. We'll go ahead and give it a read. Just gonna start off. We'll just do the one chapter to start with, and then just kind of work it from there. So, I hope you enjoyed. This is a Murder of Wizards by me. All right, chapter one. Don't look. Justin turned and pulled Lily to him. He tried to shield her from the gore splattered about the alley. The copper stink of fresh blood assaulted them as they stood across the street from the scene. As the Grim Reaper, eons of death dulled the impact for Justin. He wanted to keep Lily from it if possible. I can't. Lily looked away, but it did not help. Despite being blind, the murder shone in vivid technicolor to her. Being Justin's oracle gave her sight far beyond what any normal person enjoyed. The pull of death drew her attention, and in her mind's eye the scene coalesced as clearly as if she stared at it. The violence and butchery lit the aura surrounding the dead body in angry tones of black and red that shone like a spotlight upon the murder. She placed her hand over her mouth to keep from vomiting. The splayed open corpse's entrails hung about the alley. The smashed kidneys hung from the side of a dumpster. The lungs sat in a pile against the alley wall. The liver dripped blood into a shallow pool beside the corpse. The buzzing of flies grew louder as the dead man's evacuated bowels drew them to the feast. The callous mess made of another human left her uneasy. She wanted to block it out, to bury her head in Justin's chest and flee the scene. She tried to look away, but ancient instinct forced her to bear witness to the death of a fellow human. Her instincts buzzed with warning. Her palms sweated and her lips trembled. A predator lurked nearby, and she needed to be aware. Lily. Justin put an arm around her shoulder and turned her back to the horrific scene playing out in the alley. It's okay. I've got you. Justin wanted to go home and leave it all behind them. Lily wanted to know what happened and needed him to tell her so she did not have to face it alone. The closer they got to it, the more apparent the full extent of the horror became. What is it? What happened, Justin? Lily held on to him tightly, seeking comfort in his strength. He apprised the situation with a practiced stare. His experience on Earth gave him some insight, but his familiarity with death brought everything into focus. He scratched at the stubble on his chin as he considered the dead man. Looks like a sacrifice of some sort, a ritual, but not one I've seen before. Doesn't appear demonic, but it could be part of a summoning, maybe something geographical. Can we go? I don't like the way this feels. There's something wrong about this. I can't put my finger on it, but there's something dark here. It's tickling my senses, tempting me, drawing me toward it like an inevitable conclusion. She turned her back on the scene and shuddered. Huh? Oh, yeah, sure. Let's get out of here. Justin guided Lily away from the murderer. Justin held her hand gently as they walked. Sorry about that. Hazard of the profession, as the angel of death. I've seen a lot of corpses. It's not every day you come across something this unusual. Police cars and a gathering crowd of onlookers blocked their dwindling view of the site as they headed home. She moved away from him and glanced at a dark alcove in the otherwise unbroken wall. She pointed at the space with a trembling finger. Something is in there. I don't know what it is, Justin, but the aura, it's like the alley. Justin frowned as he glanced back from where they'd come. He stared at the alcove. Water dripped from the end of a pipe near the ground, and the space smelled of mildew and stale piss. He stepped toward the dark indentation and moved Lily behind him. Can you tell what it is, Lily? She focused her attention, but only came away with feelings of dread and the same red and black energy that covered the crime in the alley. No, I can only tell it has something to do with the killing. Sometimes not having eyes sucks. She hesitated momentarily as her sight sifted through the shifting sensations drawing her attention. I think it's on the ground. I'm not sure, but I think we were meant to find it. Well, that's not good, Justin drawled as he drew closer to the darkness. Being the immortal incarnation of death drew plenty of attention from the supernatural world. If the regular people of the city knew he walked their streets, it would only add to their problems. I'd much prefer it that people not even know we exist, much less leave us gruesome murder scenes. And he reached into the darkened alcove, moved aside some piss-soaked old newspapers, and pulled out the one thing of interest. Flowers. Flowers? They left a flower? Lily asked. What kind? He understood immediately that she was correct. It was meant for them. The purple and white blossom had 3 leaves inside of 3 leaves. It was a lily. Whoever placed it there told them they knew Lily. Whether they recognized her as his oracle, his lover, or both only mattered in figuring out who was responsible. No matter the answer, it bothered Justin immensely. Justin, what kind of flower is it? Lily asked impatiently. Her voice quivered. Her mouth went dry. She clutched at the fabric of her skirt. He stuck it in the middle pocket of his black hoodie. You know what kind of flower it is, he said quietly. As his oracle, Lily was his eye on the future and often his present. He was a horseman, one of the 4 riders of the apocalypse. Yet he chose to take a mortal as his lover. Such a thing was not unheard of, but it added levels of complication most lovers did not have to deal with. So this was a message, but was it meant for me? She whispered. I don't know. Maybe. I think whoever did this wanted me to understand that they knew you. It feels like a threat. He shook his head and pulled her close. He hugged her tightly and kissed the top of her head. He felt her trembling in his arms and hated that she was in this position. Justin laughed humorlessly and pulled back a little so she saw his smile. I'm probably making something out of nothing. It's probably a coincidence. You don't believe in coincidences. Lily elbowed him in the ribs. I could be wrong, you know. If it all turned out to be a series of coincidences, and I learned to accept them for what they are, our lives would be easier, he said as they continued walking home. Lily smiled and leaned her shoulder into his arm. We could try it. We could ignore all of this and move far away. I wish we could, Justin sighed. I'm afraid all of this would follow me around anyway. You could leave if you wanted. You'd still see things, not necessarily good things, but there would be less danger. What fun would it be if I did not have to have you with me? If I did not have you with me. She bumped him with her shoulder and smiled impishly. They walked hand in hand until they reached the alley that hid the path to the home. Justin felt a buzzing in his jean pocket. He pulled out an old flip phone and read the text message from Lucius. Tomorrow, at the park. Usual spot. Noon. He read it twice before he closed the phone. He considered the message and the timing of it. Another unlikely coincidence? Justin spent much of the last year making inroads with the local supernatural community. Some were easy. His rescue of a Fey princess the year before gave him an automatic in with the Fey and many of the Fey-friendly groups and races. Most of the mortal races shunned him outright. 2,000 years of absence meant his reputation was a bit tarnished. The wizards of New Arcadia distrusted him because they did not control him. A year's worth of favors and the long conversations helped him make inroads with most of the mortals and wizards, at least those still in standing in the light. Some races and individuals considered him only as an enemy, an obstacle, or a tool to be used. That Lucius, a member of the Wizard Council, called him on occasion spoke volumes about his progress. Justin considered him a friend, one of the few he had outside of the Elven Enclave. If he could help Lucius or the Council, then he would. The late night and the formality of the request meant bad news for someone, probably Justin. He let his breath out slowly as he stared at the device. Interesting, Justin mumbled before stuffing the phone back into his pocket. Lucius is asking to have a sit-down tomorrow morning. Lucius? From the Wizard Council? Lily asked, and Justin nodded. I think he's the one I liked. Isn't he the one who gave us the museum tour during the holidays? That was an interesting insight, or an interesting night. I thought a museum would be boring because I cannot see the pictures. The way he used his magic to make their aura shine was amazing. Yeah, he's not too bad for a wizard, Justin said with a smile. Most of the council did not like Justin living in their neighborhood. It was not personal, but wizards did not want powerful supernatural entities just hanging around unless they had control over them. Did he say what it was about? She took his hand once more and gave it a gentle squeeze. Excuse me. Justin frowned. No, but it must be urgent if he wants a face-to-face. Can't be that urgent if he can wait until tomorrow, Lily laughed. You're right. He's probably being dramatic. Justin lifted a 250-pound manhole cover as if it were no heavier than a kitchen plate. The smell of untreated sewage wafted up from below. The hole in the ground led to the dark path to the elven enclave they called home. Climb on down and we'll hurry home. Maybe I'll let you pick the movie tonight. Oh, I'm picking the movie, Lily said as she climbed the ladder into the sewers. The sound of her footsteps echoed off the damp walls. Your last pick was awful. It sounded like fun. Two guys carrying a corpse through a bunch of parties? It sounded right up my alley. He flashed a toothy grin. He followed her into the darkness beneath the street and pulled the manhole cover back into place behind him. As it clanged shut, a figure stepped out from behind a filthy green dumpster across the street from the alley. He waited a moment before turning and walking away. His black tattoos writhed about his arms and neck as if alive. Soon, very soon, he whispered as he walked away and disappeared around the darkened corner. And there you go. Chapter 1. The whole thing. Miss Book Nerd, welcome. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that. So, Weekend at Bernie's. Thank you. See, I figured you of all people would get that reference, but it was definitely like one, uh, you know, you know, I had to throw in there. There's a few different movie references in here, and I mean, obviously only the one here, but in the subsequent chapters, there's a few more, and it's like, most of them I feel like should be pretty obvious, but they're also older, so, you never know. Ah. So I hope so far you got at least a little interesting for you. This, as it happens, this first chapter was not my original first chapter. It kind of, when I was going through doing my very first, review of the first draft, I was like, man, I need the beginning to be different. There needs to be a little something more happening here. So I decided to start it with a murder right out the gates. So again, hope you like it. I personally kind of dig it. I thought it was good. Can't wait to read it. I can't wait to hear what you think. I honestly, I hope you'll like it. It's technically it's still available through the Kickstarter if you really wanted to get it like right now. But otherwise it'll be available on the 9th of December. Pretty much everywhere by about then. I mean, probably not in actual bookstores. That's the next thing to try to figure out. Got to get caught up. Yeah, because I think you read, if I remember right, you read In the Balance and Apocalypse Rising. So The Coming Darkness is kind of the one that precedes this. So there are definitely some things that happen in here that reference back to that book. I don't think you have to read it to get it. But there are definitely, definitely certain things that make a little more sense. add a little extra detail to it. But yeah, it's good. I'm, like I said, I'm pleased with kind of where it's going. I'm feeling positive. I'm feeling hopeful with it. Let's see, trash. Now it's all like I feel like now that the book's done and like I said, it's all set up in Amazon. I'm literally waiting for um some final review bits on Amazon because I screwed up the paperback cover. Um, I screwed up the paperback cover, and so I had to redo it, and it takes like 24 hours, not quite 24 hours. I'd say like 18 by the seeming uh, of previous days' efforts for it to finish approval of any changes. And so I made well, I made I fixed the paperback cover and resubmitted it like 14 hours ago. For maybe by the end of the night it'll be ready as well. But you'd be able to should be able to see all of them in Amazon. Like I said, at the very least. And in fact, you should be able to, but which is cool. Like I said, Amazon's always been my go-to, but now I have like some additional options to play with. To get in other places. The dream goal is like finding it at a there we are. Is finding it like actually in a store, which would be just so cool. So there's a link for the pre-order, and it's actually got the new price. Yay! So it's actually I dropped the price down by like $5. And on the Kindle version, the other two versions, I've knocked it down a bit more than that. Like I knocked $10 off I think I knocked $10 off of each of the paperback and hardback copies. So if you get a chance, if you wanted to pre-order from Amazon, I would appreciate it, just because those pre-orders impact the algorithms. So the more pre-orders you get, the better it works in terms of it showing up for me on Amazon when people do searches. So always appreciate it. Otherwise, if you're wanting to wait for paperback, hardbacks, they'll also be available probably in the next day or so for pre-order. Otherwise, I'm also got to get them on my website. And from there, with website, if you purchase direct from the website, which is always, it's a two-sided blade. It's on the one hand, if you order from Amazon, it means the chances of it being seen on Amazon go up, because the more clicks, the more purchases there, the more Amazon's algorithms are just going to push it, which is awesome. That's what you want, right? That's that visibility. But on the other hand, if you order it from me direct through the website, once I have that finished, I actually get, I get a little more money out of it. Instead of getting the little bit from Amazon, I get a somewhat bigger chunk of the pie. Plus, I'll sign it for you. I can't sign it if you buy it direct from Amazon. But, like I said, that's neither here nor there. Either way, I don't honestly care as long as if you grab it, you read it, and you enjoy it. Also, leaving reviews wherever you buy it from is always super appreciated. It definitely helps. So yeah. All right, let's see. Is it 5 minutes? We give it a few more minutes here. Stream Raiders is up in 5, and I don't know that it's anybody but me at the moment. But once that 5 minutes hits, then we'll do another chapter. What the heck? Until then, it's just drinking beer. Yeah, it's not. I don't know. I thought Goodreads would go automatic from Amazon, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I still have to add that one manually. God, I haven't been to Goodreads in so long. I like post my updates, but I just do that through the Kindle app. It makes it easy. Is that through my Google or through Amazon? I think so. Guess I'll find out. Let me see. Gotta get the two-factor authentication stuff in. All right. Oh, see, it does have stuff I've been reading and have read. That's cool. Wow. Obviously, I have not been in a long time because I have like 12 friend editions to add. Some of which I know, some I do not. Which is always kind of fun. Some of them, like, I feel like I should know who that is, but nobody famous on my waiting to be approved list. But that's okay. Check out your friends. All kinds of, man, I really should go here more often. I need to add this to my social media stuff. I also need to update my picture in Goodreads. If you haven't seen my picture in Goodreads, it's a very young me. It is a me that is more than 23 years ago. So, yeah, it's been a hot minute. Need to update that. Okay. Good to know. And then lots of messages, most of which are, I have no idea what they are. But I think it's just stuff written by other people. But that's all right. Not laughing at all. Yeah, don't laugh at old man Eric. Oh God, my books. So the ones I've. Okay, so it has all the books I've been reading. Yeah, I don't know how if I can even add your Amazon books to Goodreads. My books. Yeah, I don't know. See, I thought they just popped in automatically, but maybe I'm wrong. I guess. Well, there's something I gotta look into. I guess how to find my own freaking books. So I'm wondering if like a Murder of Wizards isn't there yet because it's not even available yet. Yeah, see, it's got the other 3 books, but it hasn't added the new one yet. So yeah, I don't know. I'll have to look at that. How do you add? Navigate to your author dashboard. Well, that makes it sound easy, doesn't it? All right, let's see. I'm the only one in StreamYard, so I'll just not bother changing that over. We'll just do it in the background here. And as soon as it's done, we'll read off chapter 2 here. As soon as it's done. Victory. Do the next one set up. All right. Well, let's go. We're gonna go big. Um. Well, I thought it was gonna go big. Maybe I'm mistaken. Oh. We'll do the Templar. Why not? Okay. All right. New streamers up, so I guess we'll move on here. We'll do chapter 2, and then we'll move on from there. As you can tell, I'm not used to reading out loud, which is, again, I guess, a skill I should refocus on. All right. All right, last chance before I start reading again. Now this here, chapter 2 was the original chapter 1 on first draft, but neither here nor there. All right. And this chapter, I believe, is a bit longer. All right. Chapter 2. A black and white dog ran through the park, narrowly dodging trees and circling about aimlessly before it stopped in front of the bench Justin sat upon. It put its graying muzzle on his knee and looked up at him with sad eyes. The faded blue collar around its neck was frayed about the edges. A short length of nylon cord tied through the collar's metal loop dangled down to the ground. The red tag hanging from the collar said the dog's name was Beaker. The hood of Justin's sweatshirt lay bunched up on his shoulders. The warming midday sun threatened to make his choice of attire poor, but he loved his hoodies, and they made it easier for Lucius to find him. He stroked the dog's head and scratched its ears as he read the name on the collar and smiled. "Well, Beaker, what can I do for you?" Justin asked as he itched beneath the dog's chin. The animal examined him and gave a slight whimper. By the look in his eyes, Justin could see this was no mere social call. Justin closed his eyes and took a deep breath. He called on the power and used it to examine the dog's inside and out. People walking by only saw him holding the dog's head with his eyes closed. But a new world of sensory input opened to Justin's eyes. The power, commonly referred to as magic by mortals, coursed through the old dog and told Justin a story of age and hard living. At 20 years of age, nearly all his joints hurt, and his organs were on the verge of failing. Thick cataracts clouded Beaker's eyes and made him rely on his other senses to get around safely. It won't be much longer, Beaker. Your time is coming soon. The dog gave a happy bark and wagged his tail slowly. Let's see if we can give you a good day today. One last hurrah. Justin took the power still present and used it to relieve some of the old dog's pain. It would not last, but at least for the day, he'd feel like a new dog. There you are, Beaker, called out a haggard teenage boy wearing a red shirt with the words, "Not today," emblazoned across the front. His worn-down shoes and tattered jeans were less about fashion and more about extended use. Sorry, mister. He doesn't usually run off like that. He's a good dog, and I wouldn't want to hurt anyone. The boy's brown eyes pleaded with him. Bruised purple bags hung low beneath the jaundiced eyes, partially hidden by the loose mop of greasy black hair on his head. I see that. Beaker and I have just become friends while he waited for you to catch up. Justin smiled broadly, and the dog's tongue lolled out to the side of his mouth. Thank you. The boy's shoulder relaxed, and he smiled in relief. I don't know what got into him. We stepped foot inside the park and looked, and he took off running. The boy stared down at his feet and scuffed them on the asphalt walking path, looking younger than his age. I must have been distracted, I guess. Happens to all of us from time to time, Justin said, before leaning back against the bench and smiling. He looked at the kid petting the dog. Hey, what's your name? Robert, but everyone calls me Bobby, he said as he held out his hand. Justin took Bobby's hand and gave it a firm shake. Nice to meet you, Bobby. My name is Justin. Though he appeared only a handful of years older than Bobby, walking the earth for a couple thousand years granted him a certain air of authority when he didn't focus on keeping up the facade of youth. You look hungry. Could you use a bite to eat? Bobby's eyes followed Justin's hand as he pointed to a bag marked with a garish purple letter of Ringo's Deli, renowned in New Arcadia for piling on extra meat. Hold the salad. Ringo's was a starving carnivore's delight. Bobby's stomach growled and gurgled. He started to reach for the bag, but pulled his hand back slowly. No, that's okay. I wouldn't want to take your lunch, the boy said, though his eyes never left the bag. It's okay, kid. I bought it for a friend, and he was running late, so it's his loss. Justin smiled at Bobby and picked up the bag. He tested the weight like precious diamonds stolen in a heist film. Besides, Beaker here says you're a good kid, and I trust Beaker implicitly. Justin smiled, grabbed the bag, and held it out to Bobby. It's yours. Bobby snatched the bag from Justin's hand and sat down on the bench beside him. As he opened the bag, his eyes widened at seeing the thick Reuben sandwich held together by a pair of large toothpicks. Bobby pulled the first half from the bag and considered it with rapture. He stopped to close his eyes and breathe in the scent of warm corned beef and sauerkraut. He opened his eyes slowly. Thank you, Justin, he said as he nearly unhinged his jaw and took the first bite. He moaned in ecstasy as he chewed and swallowed that first bite. Thousand Island dressing dribbled down his chin and splashed on the bench between his legs. Beaker quickly cleaned it up with a lick before sitting and staring up at his boy. Bobby pulled a large pinch of meat from the sandwich and dropped it for Beaker. The meat barely touched the ground before the old dog gobbled it up and whimpered for more. Oh my God, this is so good. You're welcome, Justin smiled as he watched the kid eat. He was familiar with the look. Homelessness affected children as often as adults, sometimes more so, but they were less visible. The kids did their best to blend in, and it was easy with how some kids dressed. One slovenly teenager appeared the same as another unless you knew the signs. Where are you staying, Bobby? Justin asked as the kid wiped his mouth on his sleeve and reached for the second half of the sandwich. Under the Parkview Bridge. It stays dry there for the most part, he said with a shrug before taking another bite of Reuben. Justin nodded. I had to stay there a time or two. The bathrooms at the gas station there were usually pretty clean. He followed his mental map back to the bridge and frowned. That's a bit of a haul from here, isn't it? Yeah, but the cops raided the bridge, busted our tents, and kicked us out. They usually watch the usual hangouts for a week before letting us back in. Bobby shrugged and gave the last of the meat to Beaker, who snapped it up as soon as Bobby presented it. He licked the last of the sandwich dripping from his fingers. I figured I'd take a look out this way to see if there was something better for me and Beaker here. Bobby scratched the dog's head and smiled at his companion. You might check out St. Christopher's over on Vapor Street. They have a shelter there. If you tell Father Jim that I sent you, he'll let you keep Beaker inside. Justin thought highly of Father Jim as a wonderful man and an even better priest. They became friends when Justin helped evict a couple of overactive poltergeists from a parishioner's home. Father Jim liked taking care of the hard luck cases that Justin sent his way. Are you a priest or something? Bobby asked as he regarded Justin with suspicion. Nope, but I've been where you are, so I know all the best places in this part of town. I moved here a couple of years ago. I don't need the shelters anymore, but I still go there to help out occasionally. Father Jim is a good guy. Justin said as he stood up. I'll try and swing over there before the weekend and take you to lunch. Thank you, Bobby said before he wadded up the sack and tossed it in a nearby garbage can. I'll check out the shelter. It might be nice to sleep indoors for a few days. He took hold of Beaker's makeshift leash. He stood and reached toward the sky in a cat-like stretch. Thanks for the sandwich, too. He turned the way he came before turning and walking towards St. Christopher's. See you later, Justin called out. Yeah, sure, Bobby waved over his head lazily. I was talking to Beaker. Justin laughed and stuck his hands in his hoodie pocket. Bobby shook his head and continued on his way. Justin watched Bobby and Beaker until they were gone. It still warmed his heart helping people out. He hoped Bobby would visit St. Christopher's and Father Jim. He figured it was a 50-50 shot that Bobby would stay at the shelter. Being accepted by Beaker and another restaurant meal might be enticing enough, but you never knew. Wizards tended to work on their own schedule, but Lucius was usually punctual. Justin scanned the park, taking in the open grass field crisscrossed with asphalt paths and the nature trails heading into the woods. The little patch of wilderness in the middle of the city was a favorite place for the local supernatural community to meet, and their intentions were not always pleasant. Memories of the battle with the ogres the year before returned, and he shuddered. He and Samantha, another angel that had called the mortal world home, fought two of the monsters. They managed to protect the people in the park. It was a close thing, but making him see her in a new light. Justin sighed loudly and turned to leave when he saw Lucius waving at him further down the path. The tall, dark-skinned man walked fast enough that a single skip in his step might send him sprinting towards Justin. Sweat soaked through his blue business suit. A second later, Lucius stood before Justin. More specifically, he was bent over with his hands on his knees, desperately trying to catch his breath. Sorry, I'm late, Justin. Whoa there, Lucius. Have a seat. Catch your breath. I'm in no hurry, Justin said as he guided his friend to the bench. Lucius was built like he could bench press a truck. In reality, he could barely hold some of the great tomes he used in his studies. In supernatural circles, Lucius remained a powerhouse. If he needed the truck moved, he used magic to get what he wanted. Thank you, he said Lucius as he caught his breath. The cabbie dropped me off on the wrong side of the park, and I had to walk all the way here. He fanned himself with one hand while using the other to wipe away the rivulets of sweat that streamed down his face. I don't think the trade-off is worth it some days. Lucius Garvey called the bargain he made as a teenager the trade-off. After his parents died, Lucius delved into the darker studies not taught in college. A demon he summoned offered him true power in return for his strength, and Lucius accepted the deal eagerly. Gone were his days of playing football or winning fights with his fists. His first steps into the world of wizardry were torture as old enemies meted out their vengeance. Self-preservation is a powerful motivator. It did not take long for Lucius to become a powerful wizard. Then you remember that you can deconstruct a car with a snap of your fingers, Justin said with a smile as he sat beside his friend. Yeah, that doesn't suck at all. Lucius laughed and slapped his knee, sending him into a coughing fit. He covered his mouth with a bright blue handkerchief with a stylized LG embroidered into the center. He held up his other hand to keep Justin from trying to help. When the coughing passed, he took one last deep breath and sat up straight. Anyhow, thanks for waiting. The universe interceded on your behalf, Justin said. I met someone new, and he kept me company until you arrived. I don't know if that's a good thing or not. If the universe is already helping, we might be in more trouble than I thought. Lucius wiped his brow with the handkerchief again and stuck it back in his shirt pocket. Sounds pretty ominous. I'm guessing that's why we're meeting in person and you're running through a park. Justin turned to face the wizard sitting beside him. Smile left quickly as it had arrived. I don't know if that's a good thing or not. Oh, wait, I already got there. Remember last month when you asked the Wizard Council to keep an eye out for anything strange around town? Well, something bad is going down, and it definitely qualifies as strange. Lucius scanned the park nervously. His gaze drifted to the woods frequently in his search for danger. Lucius feared little in the natural or supernatural world. Just had witnessed him stand toe-to-toe with a werewolf and send it packing with its tail between his legs. If something had Lucius spooked, it had to be more than your garden variety bad. What is it? What's going on? You know I wouldn't come to you about this sort of thing normally. Us wizards like to take care of our own business. We keep a clean house. It keeps us out of trouble with the greater powers and keeps the normal ignorant of what we can do. We like it that way. Sweat broke out on Lucius's forehead once more. He reached for his handkerchief and nearly dropped it as he pulled it out of his pocket. He dabbed his head again and opted not to put it away. He licked his lips and clenched his large, weak hands into fists before continuing in a hushed voice. Someone, or something, is hunting wizards, Justin. No, they're doing more than hunting us. They're sacrificing us, draining all the magic from us in the process. The ritual's like nothing I've ever seen. It's some seriously dark shit, and I can't even figure out what it's for. What can you tell me about the ritual? Justin asked as he leaned forward with his hands on his knees. I got a close-up look at a couple of the early ones. The heart's ripped out of the chest, and the eyes are plucked from the sockets. No sign of them, not even burnt remnants at the scene. The bodies are exsanguinated, but for no reason I can fathom. In some scenes, the blood is all over the place. In others, it's just gone. The rest of the organs end up wherever. There's no rhyme or reason to it. Lucius leaned back and shook his head. It's all kind of fucked up, man. I might have come across the aftermath of one last night. I couldn't get close, but the body was splayed open and I could see the heart was missing. It wasn't anything I'd seen before. Nasty work. Justin thought of the scene from the night before and the implied threat of the lily. He kept that to himself. Yeah, that was Spencer Cliff. He was an initiate, just starting to make a name for himself. Lucius shook his head and sighed. Poor kid. So someone's killing wizards, harvesting some extremely specific organs, draining of their blood and magic. That is one long list, and you're right. It doesn't make any sense. You could tie a couple of those things together, but not all of them. Justin's fingers clenched into fists as he tried to reach back through his memories, but he came up blank. Maybe they're doing 2 rituals at once? I've never done it myself, but I heard they could weave 2 or 3 rituals together in the old days for some interesting results. Lucius stopped talking and tried to look casual in his sweat-stained suit. A pair of teenagers holding hands walked past them, cutting off the conversation. Bad enough talking about murders, but speaking of magic in front of normals was a major taboo in wizard circles. As soon as they were out of earshot, Lucius continued. There's something else. It's about the magic being drained. He looked about conspiratorially. I'm only telling you this because this shit is bad, and I figure you're going to need every bit of information we got. I could get kicked out of the council for even telling you some of this. I won't say a word to anyone, not even Lily, Justin said as he crossed his heart with one hand and held up a 3-fingered salute in the other. Knock it off, will you? This is serious. You know how the bones of the saints still hold traces of magic in them? Well, the bones of wizards end up the same way. Long after we're dead and gone, there's a trace of us, our residual power left behind. But with these murders, there's not a trace remaining. Jesus. Lucius held up his hands to ward off Justin as he opened his mouth. I know. Blasphemy and all that. I'm sorry. This has us all a bit stressed out. Anyhow, 2 days ago they found the body of old Bernie Schultz, and there wasn't a trace of magic left in him. Say what you will about that crazy old wino, but he was a 300-year-old and could level a city block if he stopped drinking long enough to concentrate. 300 years, and not an ounce of power remaining. Bertie's dead? Justin's mouth hung open and his eyes opened wide. Damn it. Bertie never hurt anyone. He was always nice to me and the others when I was homeless. He shared his food when he had it and never asked for anything in return. He closed his eyes and swallowed the anger threatening to surface. Getting mad wouldn't bring Bernie back or save anyone else. How many more? He asked through clenched teeth. Bertie was the 7th, and Spencer makes 8. Lucius said as he moved further away from Justin. 8? And it took you this long to come to me? Justin stood up, paced in front of the bench, and glared at Lucius. I might have saved half, maybe more, if you'd come to me sooner. Lucius shrugged his shoulders. The council decided since wizards are being hunted, we would take care of it ourselves. A few of the more martially minded of us went out looking for whoever was doing this, and 2 of the hunting party never made it back. We found them eviscerated and dumped into a 50-gallon drum. Either the killer has friends, or it takes some preparation for their rituals. Lucius looked at the ground and shook his head before he continued. After that, the panic started kicking in. People started leaving town. I thought I was safe. You know me, man. I barely even leave the house anymore. I figured I was safe, but then they found Jerry the clairvoyant dead at home. For fuck's sake, Justin. They killed the clairvoyant in his own house. How the hell does that even happen? I don't know. Maybe they have some way to beat wards or make themselves invisible. There could be hundreds of ways, Justin suggested. Bullshit. That guy saw his wife was going to poison him and he turned the tables on her. His wife. You think he couldn't see what was coming to avoid it? He wouldn't go down easy, man. He would have leveled that house fighting to stay alive. He was still in his damn bathrobe. Lucius slapped his hand on the bench with a crack. His heavy breathing and wheezing drowned out the nascent sound before it traveled far. Calm down, Lucius. Deep breaths. I'll stop it. I think it's best if you took a little vacation until I have this sorted out. Justin patted the back of his friend gently. I'm way ahead of you, Lucius said before reaching into his jacket pocket and pulling out an airline ticket. Flying out to Rome tomorrow. I heard they have some great libraries there. He stuck it back in the pocket like it was a priceless treasure. Yes, they do. The Vatican has all kinds of good stuff, but it's locked away. Justin stood up and put his hand in his hoodie pocket. Might have to check that out, Lucius said with a wink. A few mundane locks and alarms did little to deter a determined wizard. Just be careful. The Vatican does not mess around when it comes to their books. Justin vaguely remembered trying to steal a book for Galileo and nearly losing a hand in the process. He shook his head and asked, Before you go, is there anything else you can tell me? Any clue that might help me find out who's doing this? Doesn't matter how small. Lucius took a long, deep breath before speaking. Man, I do not know what else to tell you. All the victims are wizards. It doesn't seem to matter how powerful they are or how many wards they put up. Whoever's doing this has slipped past some heavy-duty defenses. He rubs his temples for a moment and continues. There is something else now that I think of it. In the chest cavity of each victim was a single large white feather. Damned thing is the blood doesn't stick to it at all. I don't know much about birds, but I think it might be from a seagull or a swan. I thought it was part of the ritual, but it seems to be a plain feather. I assumed it was more of a calling card. You know how sick these serial killer types can be. He stood up with a strained grunt. I'm going to end up sleeping for the rest of the day after this. Seems like a good plan, but don't miss your flight, okay? Lucius waved his hand dismissively. Thanks again, Justin. Here's the list of the dead, their home addresses, and where they were found if not at home. He said, We'll owe you one if you figure it out. He stood and headed down the path to the edge of the park. Shit. Justin put one hand on the back of the park bench and gazed up at the sky. Clock tower bells rang in the distance. The deep melodic tones no longer brought comfort. He wondered if they were the funeral bells portending the death of another lost soul. Hey, Justin, Lucius yelled. Justin turned to see the wizard wave a cell phone over his head. There's been another one. 35th and Vapor. Good luck. The big man turned and walked away with a little more urgency in his step. The bells stopped tolling in the distance, leaving Justin alone in the bustling silence of the park. There you go, chapter 2. Like I said, bit longer. But kind of starts to get into more of the meats of it, right? Oh, beer tasty. So yeah, a little further along. Oh, goodness. Love Beaker. I love Beaker. Beaker was my I just liked the idea of the dog. Funny thing with that bit of scene there, but dog person. Yeah, I mean, who doesn't love a good dog? You know, a good boy, a good dog. Um Funny thing with that scene for me was when I originally wrote it, I had it where the reason Bobby let let Beaker slip was that Beaker. Oh, there it is. Look at there. Uh, the reason it let Beaker slip was because girls. You know, Bobby got distracted by girls and therefore let the dog slip. But the way I had it written, it was kind of pointed out to me that Justin was making some assumptions about it being girls versus anything else. You know, versus it being boys or you know who knows what Apache attack helicopters. But and I sat there with that and I'm like, oh, no, I'm like, that seemed like a natural thing. But the more and more I thought about it, the more I'm like, that's kind of true. You know, um, when I first wrote this, which honestly was like 7 years ago, I think when I started it, thereabouts, it kind of was in that. Yeah, I mean that's 7 years ago is a ways, and certainly things have changed. I mean, being more inclusive has definitely become a thing, especially more recently. And the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, that's absolutely correct. There's a lot of assumptions there that the character's making, and while it's easy enough to pawn it off because, uh, you know, he's an angel. Maybe he could just tell, which on its own weird ways seems kind of odd. Um, but yeah, I was like, okay, well, that's it's a good point. So I opted out of it. So I don't know why I couldn't find it with just a general search, but there's a Murder Wizards in Goodreads. So I don't know if it just became populated or because I went there. I don't know. I don't know. I'd be curious. Let me know if you can actually poke it or if it's just woot on my shelf. Nice. Oh, I like it. I'm excited. I mean, it's always easy to get excited when you're done with the book. Like getting to know, like, oh, where am I at? How are things going? But then there's the part of me that's like, have people already pre-ordered? How can I tell? Where's the details? Damn it! I want to know these things. Because unfortunately, it doesn't tell you. Like, at least not in any of the reports on Amazon that I've been able to find, where it's like, oh wait, there's a pre-orders one. Somebody pre-ordered. Yeah. Somebody pre-ordered yesterday. Neat. I've got a pre-order. That makes me happy. So there is a place where you can see it. So very cool. So the fun thing is trying to figure out like, what am I doing next? You know, what's the next bit here? I mean, obviously I have the kind of the short story novella thing I've got to do for the Kickstarter, which I started poking at last week. Which I'm going to turn that into, I got to edit it some, but I'm going to turn it into a video because it kind of shows some of the auto crit story builder functions. So I thought that'd be kind of fun. Heading to bed. Have a good rest of your evening. Thank you. Thank you, Strange Valkyrie. Appreciate you. Thank you for coming and hanging out with me. Always a pleasure. Have a good sleep. But so yeah, I've got that. And then what else? I mean, I got to get that knocked out kind of quick because I'm already behind on that because the editing on everything took forever. So what to do next, right? So I've already got the next book in this series, which is the major sequel to Apocalypse in the Balance, as yet unnamed. But so I've got that, and I feel like obviously that's something I should start working on. But before I work on that, it's been so long since I've really delved into that. I decided what I was going to do is start going through that and rereading it, pulling details, doing a little light editing on the way, before I kick off on that. But then I'm thinking on the other things. Like I've got the science fiction piece that I usually post on my website, which I've fallen behind on doing post that because I got caught up in finishing this. And then I have another story, which was actually technically my first book that I finished, and it needs a huge rewrite. So I'm looking at that even as maybe just to take a break from this a little. And I was thinking I might actually do that one and do it in a like a serialized form using like the Kindle Vella. If you're not familiar with that, it's good for serialized stories. So I thought that might be kind of a fun thing to do with that, but I got to do some serious editing before I really dive into that. Not to say I can't do it, but it's definitely going to take a little effort. But I think that might be the next place I go, just to get something else out there. You know, I have that, and I have the sci-fi story on the website. You know, and I can do that while I'm kind of working through the details of the next Armageddon Angels story too. So we shall see. All right, let's see here. Just cleaning up the old Stream Raiders a little bit. Easy path here. If it'll ever launch. And then we can do another chapter here. Because, man, it's already 10:15. But let's see what we got. Right there. That'll work. All right. Let's set that right down. Give me a quick second. I'm gonna take my headset off. I'm gonna take my sweatshirt off here because as much as I love it, and yeah, this is one you can buy off the website. It's not I should have bought a brighter color. I just like the dark. It's just, you know, sanity optional. But it's getting hot in here, so I'm going to take my sweatshirt off. Give me just a quick second. And another one of my shirts. I need to order some more. All right. Yeah. All right. So let's. I got the Goodreads there. We did that. So I already know that's in there. Yeah, it doesn't show up weirdly if I do just like a search for Eric Sweat. It doesn't show up. Or at least it didn't. Let's see if it's different now for whatever reason. As soon as it's done refreshing. Bookshelves, just double check. Oh. Nope. All right, so it fixed the author copy, the cost, not the author copy, but the cost on the hardback and on the ebook, but I still can't change the price on the paperback for some stupid reason. Anyhow, that's fine. Always heading in the right direction, right? All right, let's go to some chapter 3. All right. Like all angels, Justin had wings that he could use to fly, but he chose to keep them hidden within his body. Justin used the power to help him move throughout the city on foot. He wrapped himself in a bubble of power that prevented people from noticing the 6.5-foot tall angel running through the streets, leapfrogging cars and hurdling more minor obstacles in the way. He figured out his handy trick after watching a movie with Lily. The space alien hunting soldiers in the jungle trope seemed a little played out, but Lily loves that movie. Being blind did not prevent her from enjoying life. She could not see the pictures on the screen, but reveled in the familiar sounds, the cheesy dialogue, and the simple premise. "Get to the chopper!" she yelled in sync with the movie in her best Austrian accent. Justin laughed along with her through the whole thing. Once the movie finished, Justin wondered if he could mimic the alien's light-bending camouflage. For the next week, Justin spent his time in a secluded part of the cave trying to create a spell that would bend the light around him. Numerous failed attempts left the Enclave elves laughing. The experiment often ended with Justin looking like he was trapped in a funhouse mirror or looking like a glowing Christmas tree topper. Manipulating light did not appear to be in his bag of tricks. One night he sat with Scipio after a rather spectacular failure, created a circle of brilliant electric blue light around his neck. "I don't know why this is so hard. I can create a devastating lances of fire, but I can't make the light go around me." Scipio laughed. "You'd be better off giving up on this little venture. It'd be better just walking down the street like normal. No one would ignore you if you're walking around looking like a giant glow stick." He was right, of course, but what he said got Justin thinking. If he could not bend the light, maybe he could make people ignore him instead. Justin did not approve of mind control or manipulation, but he did not think this trick counted. It reminded him of a movie where the old man creates a simple distraction that makes the armored soldiers look away. What he was attempting was very much like that, only on a much larger scale. After a few weeks of trial and error, Justin created a field about himself that acted as a distraction. Casual observers noticed something out of the corner of their eye, heard something unusual, or smelled something that reminded them of something pleasant. They looked away or blinked as Justin passed, drawn to their distraction. He tried using it while flying, but his wings were too big and unusual to get by without notice. He continued to refine the spell and practice using it, but for now he could only use it on the ground. As he approached the crime scene, Justin ended the spell and surveyed the scene. Long lines of yellow crime scene tape cordoned off the shipping dock behind the old mill. The body remained uncovered, lying in a pool of its own blood. The viscera of the abdomen and chest lay strewn about, seemingly at random. The smell of blood was heavy in the midday sun. A pair of uniformed officers struggled with the inflatable privacy barrier used to keep onlookers away from taking pictures of the scene. A small crowd stood behind the tape with their cell phones held high, recording a little piece of the horror for themselves while they could. They talked loudly and pointed out details to each other. A couple in the front turned their back to the scene and snapped a selfie with the corpse in the background. Justin frowned at the callous way they treated the murderer. Death is an attraction. He stepped into the crowd. He became just another face in the crowd, and he slouched and worked his way further in. When he got to the front of the crowd, he saw a pile of blood-stained blonde hair surrounding the victim's head like a tragic halo. Blood splatter painted the walls and ground surrounding the body. The stark white of the woman's ribs stuck up through the ruined meat of her chest, like the jaws of a predator waiting for a bite. From his vantage point, he could not see her face, but the blood dripping from her eye socket dried in long tracks down her cheeks. "My God," Justin whispered as he surveyed the scene. "I know, right? I heard one of the cops say this was the fifth one, but I've not heard a peep about it on the news." A tall man in an impeccable gray suit with a red bow tie ran his hand over his slick back hair that could not have shifted out of place in the face of a hurricane. Oop, hold on just a second here. Sorry. Noticed a little oof that I want to fix. Not tonight, obviously, but a little oof just the same. There's a extra quotation mark where it shouldn't be. And like I said, I've got time to fix it, so why not? Hurricane, quote, and then crowd. Okay, like I said, little notes. He had his phone out and took zoomed in pictures, catching it in all the high definition. He quickly reviewed the images, and his not too handsome face broke out in a grin. "I've got a friend who knows a newspaper reporter. He says I could probably sell some of these pics." "Kind of ghoulish, don't you think?" Justin asked. His nose wrinkled and his eyes narrowed as he turned to face the man in the suit. He shrugged and went back to taking pictures. Justin surveyed the growing crowd. Most were well dressed in their expensive business attire. Business professionals taking a break from their insular office lives to get a look at the results of real-world violence. "Do you work in there?" he asked, with a nod toward a gleaming office building across the street, a monument to modern efficiency. "Yeah, man. Day trading, you know. Give me good access to the internet, I can work anywhere. But I like to keep home and work separate if I can. Real estate out here is cheap. Hell, they leveled the old building and made this one with all the modern amenities, and it still costs less than renting half the space downtown." The man snapped a couple more pictures. "I guess this is the downside of working in the ghetto. Dead bodies and shit. It's a rush, though. I bet I could start an office pool or something." "I'm sure you could," Justin said as he turned his back on the crowd and sighed. They were all taking pictures or videos, jostling for position and looking for the viral shot. The disrespect of the dead person, not 100 feet away, disgusted Justin. He missed when everybody respected the dead, but the world had changed a lot since he started walking the earth. Only the yellow crime scene tape and a pair of uniformed officers stood between him and the crime scene. He leaned forward, trying to make out more details, and the heavy-set officer put his hand on Justin's chest and gave him a none too gentle shove. "Keep back," he said as he crossed his arms and glared at Justin. "Cross line again and you'll have to leave." "Chill out, Marv," said the other officer as he pulled back on Marv's shoulder. "He didn't cross the line. He stretched the tape and looks shifty as hell," Marv said. "Why don't you go over there and yell at one of the suits trying to record everything, Marv?" Marv huffed and glowered at Justin before he turned and started barking orders at a well-dressed woman holding her phone out far beyond the tape. The second officer turned to Justin and said, "Sorry about that. This is the second one we've had to help with. Marv is a marshmallow, but these killings are getting to him." "Yeah, I guess I can understand that. Can't be easy dealing with that much blood." Justin glanced toward the body. The young officer nodded. "The last one was the first dead person I've ever seen. It was actually worse than this one." He shook his head, trying to erase the memory from his mind. 2 in 2 days has been tough." "Man, worse than this one? You guys got more guts than me. I have to call in sick." Justin tried to laugh, but it was weak and hollow even to his ears. "Yeah, I probably should have." He tipped his hat back on his head, uncovering his forehead and the sweat beading there. "Name's Dorman," the officer said as he tapped the name tag pinned above his badge. The end of tarnish on the badge marred its shine, if only a little. He was a younger man than Marv and still had some civility left in him. Justin smiled and said, "Nice to meet you, Officer Dorman." He stuck his hands into his jean pockets and looked past the policeman. "So what's going on here? Why haven't I seen this on TV yet?" "Yeah, they're trying to keep it quiet," Officer Dorman said as he turned and surveyed the carnage. He leaned closer to Justin and spoke softly. "There's some sick shit going on. We don't have any leads, or so I've heard. Word is they're calling the killer the Ripper." Justin's eyebrow lifted. He whispered back, "As in Jack the Ripper?" "Yeah, sick shit. Just when you think the city can't get any weirder, you know?" Officer Dorman scowled at the scene as the inflatable barrier finally blocked the scene from the crowd. The last victim was a man, and Justin knew it, but Officer Dorman was talking and he wanted to keep that going. "So, both the victims were women?" Officer Dorman looked a bit confused and shook his head. "What? No, the last one was a man." "Oh, Jack the Ripper only killed women and cut out their wombs." Justin shivered and recalled the Ripper. He happened to be in London at that time, and the fear amongst the prostitutes in the city filled the streets and alleys of Whitechapel. It was a very dark time that lasted well beyond the end of the Ripper's rampage. "What are you talking about? Jack the Ripper cut up a bunch of people, not tear out their privates. Jesus!" Officer Dorman took a long step back and looked at Justin with disgust. "God, what is wrong with you?" "Nothing. I'm just saying that's what Jack the Ripper did." "Man, stop. I don't need to hear that." Officer Dorman put his hands up to block the words. "Is there a problem, Dorman?" said a man in a shabby brown suit, a size too small for its owner. A glint of light reflected off a tarnished brass badge hanging from his belt. Its muted shine managed to be seen despite the healthy overlap of his stomach. Detective Jason Maxwell carried the extra weight of the 20-year career about him like an additional layer of protection. His dark, squinting eyes peered past his pockmarked cheeks and evaluated Justin in a heartbeat. "This guy wants to know if she had her lady parts cut out," Dorman said as he blushed and nodded towards the corpse. "And how do you know it's a woman lying over there?" the detective asked with a discouraged sigh aimed at the young officer. "I assumed since you were calling the killer the Ripper," Justin said as he slouched and tried to make himself appear a little smaller and a little more pathetic. The detective glared at Dorman. "We are most certainly not calling whoever did this the Ripper, because that would be reckless. Right, Dorman?" Dorman's body stiffened under the gaze of Detective Maxwell. He glanced at Justin and opened his mouth to speak, but thought better of it. He stood straighter and took a deep breath before saying, "That's right, Detective Maxwell. That would be stupid. Why don't you and your partner over there start taking some statements while I have a chat with our friend here?" He waited until Dorman turned and walked before he looked at Justin and said, "I'm sorry, but I didn't catch your name," Detective Maxwell said as he locked eyes with Justin. "My name's Justin, but I didn't see anything. I just heard the sirens and came to have a look." He looked away and shrank back a little, but the wall of onlookers trying to catch One last glimpse of the corpse stopped him from leaving. You got a last name, Justin? Detective Maxwell asked as he pulled out a cheap spiral notebook and black pen. He clicked the plunger and exposed the ballpoint tip. He looked from his notebook, waiting for Justin's answer. Not that I use, Justin said with a cautious smile. Cute. Detective Maxwell jotted down something that Justin could not see. Okay, wise guy. How is it you know so much about Jack the Ripper? I read books, Justin said. The library is a great place to get out of the rain, and I like to read when I can. Detective Maxwell did not look up from his notebook until he stopped speaking. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't find any police records or warrants if I took you back to the station, would I? I don't think so, Detective. I do my best to stay out of trouble, Justin said. Well, you kind of dropped the ball on that one now, didn't you? Maxwell tapped the back of his pen against his notebook and smirked at the younger man. Another detective, shorter than his partner but as lean and muscular as Maxwell, was soft and thick, strode beside Detective Maxwell and pretended to ignore Justin. What you got going on here, Jason? Asked Detective Barry Manzelli. He leaned forward as he walked, a man who carried a perpetual chip on his shoulder. Funny guy interested in cutting up women, Detective Maxwell asked. Oh, yeah? Well, isn't that curious? Detective Manzelli glared at Justin. Is that some sort of hobby? What? No way. He held up his hand in front of him. I just like to read. Manzelli puffed out his chest and reminded Justin of the sort of display the male birds made during courtship. Does he look like a suspect to you, Jason? Because he looks like a suspect to me. I'd like to take him back to the box and see how much he knows about this little hobby. Justin's eyes went wide. Hey now, I just said I didn't like that sort of thing. Tempting, but I think he's just a smartass, not a killer, Detective Maxwell said as he pulled out his cell phone. He aimed the camera at Justin and snapped a couple photos. We might want to talk to you later, Justin. With no last name, where can we find you? If you call St. Christopher's, they can usually find me, Justin said as he put his hand down and looked at his feet, striking a false pose of shame. He sniffed loudly and wiped his sleeve under his nose. I don't exactly have a steady address. Got it. Maxwell jotted the name down in his notebook before he stuck it into his jacket pocket. Come on, Barry. I want to see if any of these security cameras work. He pointed at some old cameras hung near the roof of the office building across the street. Detective Manzelli curled his lip and sneered at Justin. You'd better stay clean. If I see you around the station, I might take a special interest in you. Will do, Detective, Justin said. Note. Just decided to backed away from the crime scene tape. The void left behind filled with onlookers eager for a better view. Justin turned and made his way to clear the crowd, eager to be away from the murder and the question of the detectives. 9 victims, and each scene equally as gruesome. He could understand why the wizards waited so long to come to him. Wanting to handle it themselves seemed like a weak excuse, given the carnage depleting their already limited ranks. He thought he had garnered more trust over the last year, but there were still limits. He kicked a rock on the sidewalk and wondered why the police had kept it quiet. There should be some plea for information, if not an outright warning to the city's people. Why not a single word on the news? Justin suspected that would change with this public display of carnage and the crowd's ghoulish interest. It would be all over the national media before the day ended. Things were about to get a whole lot crazier. So yeah, there's chapter 3. So so yeah, chapter 3. I guess I don't know what else to say about it. I kind of dig it. Uh, I enjoyed introducing their Detective Maxwell and Manzelli. They'll make appearances later on in the book as well. Um, it was just fun. I like kind of giving the descriptions of the police officers, the different types. You know, the detectives, the younger guy, the whole thing. It just something I enjoy. So so yeah. I mean, it's uh it's just fun. I enjoy the reading and you know for better or worse, I like the dark stuff. And there are some of the descriptions of the dead and the scene. Um, I thought for that scene, just doing the kind of macabre carelessness of people standing around watching it and videotaping and taking pictures seems like something that would be right at home these days. You know, I can't imagine there being a crime scene out in some sort of relative open where there wouldn't be a bunch of people with their cameras out taking pictures and stuff like that. You know, it's almost like the amount of callousness towards death that we have in our society is just it's just insane, quite frankly. Um, having been around, dead people and having to deal with taking care of them um, after they've died, it's not enjoyable. And yeah, granted, I'm a bit older, so the idea of even the remote idea of like taking a picture just never even crossed my mind. Um, and I'd like to think that it still wouldn't. Like if there was somebody dead out near, I don't know that I would want to take pictures of the crime scene or anything. I suppose maybe if I was to take anything, it would be maybe the people around the crime scene. You know, the other people there, because I've watched enough like crime shows and stuff like that. Where it's the killer likes to a lot of times will like to stick around, see their handiwork, especially like serial killers and stuff like that. So maybe I'd get all junior detective and be like, I don't care about taking pictures of the scene over there. I want to take pictures and video of all the people around me. But even then, I probably wouldn't. I just don't know that would come to my mind right away. It just doesn't appeal to me. I think that first off, it's not something I would want to ever look at just for pleasure purposes. Like, oh man, I saw that dead guy. Let's pull that up. No. And I wouldn't want to profit over that either. Taking somebody else's picture and be able to sell it or whatever. It's just something about the idea of profit over somebody else's death just kind of bothers me a little bit. Again, maybe that makes me unusual. I don't know. I just don't think that would be me. So, I think what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna call it a night here, pretty much. I'm gonna kick off Stream Raiders a bit early, just because nobody else has joined in, so why not? So I think I'm just gonna call here. I'm gonna take the video from this and I'm gonna stick it out in YouTube. So if you want to watch it again or listen again, go ahead. Like I said, I found a few issues here in chapter 3 that were of significant enough note that I feel like I need to fix them. So that's always good, right? I mean, I technically have until December 5th to fix any things I find that are messed up. So, we'll just run with it. So anyhow, thank you for hanging out with me. Strange Valkyrie, Tay, Miss Book Nerd, Patter Ursa. Appreciate it. Appreciate all of you. Like I said, if you get a chance, check out the pre-order on Amazon. You'll be able to find it. Should be able to find the ebook version in all other major booksellers tomorrow. So if you're not an Amazon person, you want to look for that somewhere else. Kobo, Apple Books. Where else? There's a few other places. Those are kind of the big ones. Um, they, you know, what else are there? See, Barnes& and Noble, Kobo, Apple, Tolino, Vivlio, Smashwords, Gardeners. You can also do it in like subscription services, for through Scribd, Kobo Plus, Overdrive, Odillo, Biblioteca. Those are library services. You probably wouldn't find them there unless you're a library. But anyhow, yeah, if you want to take a look, see what you can find, let me know. Let me know what you think. If you buy it somewhere else, let me know. Just because I'd love to know where things are being sold from, and yeah, go from there. Probably next week on Tuesday, I'll probably do the same. We got a couple more weeks before the book launches, so we'll probably read a few chapters there. Uh, Anyhow, otherwise, I will catch you all later, and I hope you have a great night, and I will see you again soon.